nationwide and close to home for everything you need. About the House, sponsored by Home Value.
Architecture, like art, should enrich our surroundings, make our world and our living spaces attractive, pretty and sustainable, and should make a point. In this season of About the House, our new architect presenter, Una McQuillan, will be talking us through some of Ireland's most original and sometimes extravagant homes, and exploring the challenges and concepts of architects designing to give colour to our lives. I'll be meeting people building some very experimental ecological dream homes outside of modern convention that might change the way all of us build forever. Also, home builders that prove that green design can be attractive, comfortable and accessible. And what happens when an architect becomes his own client? How to get daylight and solar energy deep into an existing house, and ways to make older houses more livable and future-proofed. That and more in this year's series of About the House. There are very few places near Dublin where you can find enough space to grow all your own vegetables, be at cycling distance from work, and to find a decent and affordable plot to build your own house. That's why the couple I'm about to meet have decided to pack up their life and move to the Midlands, where they're about to start to build a very eco-friendly house. Close to Mullingar town, Niamh and Patrick Daly bought their dream site 5 years ago. This couple have a vision. The house they want is not just an eco-house. This unique technology will be the very first of its kind in Ireland. Patrick is an energy consultant with his own successful practice, and Niamh looks after the administration of his office. So Niamh, how did you find the site?
Well, we were looking for a couple of years. We used some of the estate agents here, but because we weren't from the area, we found it very hard to actually find the sites that they were giving us maps to or directions or whatever. So, sort of in frustration at the end, I put an ad in the paper and asked if there was anybody with the site with planning permission, and 3 people came forward. But we loved this one because the orientation, most of the views being from the south, and the entrance to the north just seemed ideal. So we closed a sale with one of the guys.
Well, it's certainly got all the peace and quiet and tranquility of the countryside here.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, and Patrick, you're an architect and you specialise in ecological buildings. What's special about this particular house?
It's been a long-term dream, really. I guess everybody involved in this profession wants to do this. We introduced contemporary aspects to design, but yet kept traditional materials and also a traditional scale. So the house is a narrow plan form and it's long, and so that's kept the roof line down, it's kept the eaves line quite low, and that was quite important in achieving planning permission for the house.
From the entrance there is a view through the dining area and beyond into the garden. The main living space is an open plan kitchen which is separated from a winter garden with a large glass wall. Downstairs Patrick will have his home office and there's a ground floor bedroom. Upstairs there's a reading room, a playroom and 2 other bedrooms including a master bedroom with an ensuite and a walk-in closet. Patrick is willing to try experimental techniques on his own family home. In my view, his plans are very ambitious. For the last few years, they've been living in this semi-D, but as keen environmentalists, they now want something different. Patrick, you bought the site about 5 years ago. Why didn't you build before this?
When we initially bought the site, we had aspirations to design an ecological house, and as I began to look at that, around the same time, I had started a master's in advanced energy and environmental studies. And the beginning of that course, I realised that I actually didn't have the skill set really to do this. So we put the project on hold for 3 years while I completed a master's in this area, and that's really equipped me approach the design in a very different way than I had originally set out.
It coincided with us starting to have children, so that slowed us all down as well. So, but I'm really glad that we have had that time as well, because the house that we've designed now is very different to what we would have designed when it was just the two of us.
Right. So anyway, you've taken on quite a challenge with this house. But what is that is so special about it? What's unique about the house?
Firstly, we want to take the house to the German passive standard.
This building standard basically means that the house is extremely well insulated and generally needs no heating system. It will be primarily heated by the sun, body heat and things like toasters. They've become very popular throughout Europe since the first passive house was built, and soon to be introduced as the building standards. However, there's only a handful in Ireland. Patrick is taking this concept one step further.
This house is really trying to achieve the most radical energy standards, and at the same time respecting the principles of ecological material design. On an annual basis, it will have no energy bill at all for anything. A zero energy house hasn't been done in Ireland, and certainly a zero energy house or a super low energy house hasn't been done with these type of materials.
He's not just building a passive house, he wants a totally green design, which means he's mostly using renewable materials like wood and hemp that store carbon from the atmosphere. To get fresh air into this airtight house, a clever system of pipes are fitted in the soil below the house, which preheats the air before going through the heat recovery ventilation system. So Niamh, how would you feel now about living in a house that has got no central heating?
Well, I was a bit cautious in the beginning, thinking, how am I going to dry clothes and, you know, all the practical things. You're so used to having radiators and a system you can just flick on, you know.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, really, yeah. I suppose, well, some of my friends are buying their kitchens for their new houses, and bits of my wall sections are being sent off to labs to get tested, so it's very different.
All of this in the one house. And I know this is your specialty as an architect, and obviously your whole practice now is built around this. But you're now really experimenting here, aren't you? Yes. And you really have to achieve it.
We do.
Yeah,
and if you don't, you know, it's going to reflect your practice and everything here.
It's a bit scary, all right. But it's really worthwhile going for.
Right.
So somebody has to be the first. So
here's the challenge, and let's see it go. We're going to watch this now. Because Patrick wants to build a passive house, it means he doesn't want to have any heat losses anywhere. So what he's done is he's put a special concrete block here. These are lightweight aerated blocks, and these are going to conduct much less heat. And on top of that, for the last 4 inches, he's putting in these very special glass foam insulating blocks, which have good compressive strength, they're very strong, and means he can now have a much better insulation here to prevent that heat loss. This project certainly is a big challenge, and I'm not sure if they can achieve all of their goals. If they do, they'll be the first in Ireland to pull it off.
It is estimated that over 250,000 of the Irish workforce leave home before 7 a.m. to get to work. Many of those commuters dream of working from home. This week on About the House, we're visiting a couple who are doing just that. This unique architecture, designed by Donal Hickey and his interior designer wife Fionnuala, is located just a few miles north of Dublin city centre in Killester. Number 1 Nuns Lane is a striking sculptural piece in a suburban terrace. Known locally as the Architect's House, it is a marriage of functionality and design extravagance.
We designed the house here, part of the intention was to separate working from living.
So we wanted to be able to leave the house, walk out and walk in another door.
So did you have any planning problems at all?
Believe it or not, we had no planning problems at all. We crossed all our I's and dotted all our T's or whatever, and documented it really, really well. And as a result of that, it went through the planning system really very easily.
This is a very brave piece of architecture. This is fantastic, isn't it?
It's the main room in the house, and it takes over the whole of the ground floor. It effectively means when the sun moves around the room that you get light literally every moment of the day.
It actually follows your activities around during the day. Yeah. So when you're having breakfast, the sun is shining in from the breakfast table, and then in the evening it comes through this window.
Yeah.
where you're sitting around.
And that's the most relaxing, looking out to the garden in the evening time, you know?
Yeah.
And also looking at this fireplace.
To some respect, the fireplace is the kind of the centre, the pivotal point in the house. In metaphoric terms, holds the sky up.
It's absolutely beautiful. What is it?
It's Kilkenny limestone,
Okay.
and we had it quarried. We wanted the fossil effect. The idea is that it looks like smoke blowing up into the sky.
And then also what strikes me is the fact that this one very strong structural piece in the centre of one very large room, which is real old vernacular architecture, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that was obviously an idea, as well as maybe Georgian proportions of the room.
Spot on.
Because what are your friends and family and neighbours, and what do they all think of the house?
There's a mixed reaction. I think some of them love it and some of them don't understand it.
And there are people who've told us we should wallpaper the concrete.
Yeah. I think that was one thing when we were building it. I kind of worried about that this room was so big that it wouldn't feel cosy or comfortable. But the wood just, it's so warm and rich, really, it brought the room in.
They're completely wrapped in timber. Even things like doors are kind of hidden.
I just love the way the timber gives this wonderful contrast with the concrete, especially when you come to the kitchen. I mean, it seems to be quite small within the overall scale of things. Some people want to embrace kitchens and have them as the biggest room in the house almost,
It's good for cooking. I mean, it obeys all the rules, Everything is close at hand to make and prepare food. There's only kind of one way in. So Fionnuala did have a big problem with that. She wanted a door so that you could go in one side and out the other.
Yeah, practically we decided in the end to put a hatch in it.
I mean, there is something theatrical about it. And the kids love it. A bit like Punch and Judy.
Is the hatch normally opened or is it closed, for a little bit of privacy?
Well, I always open them and Donal always closes them.
I try and put it back the way I designed it, and Fionnuala keeps them open to have it the way she thought of it.
Well, that's a good point. Did both of you compromise in the design in any shape or form?
There weren't that many compromises in terms of the design.
There was a few compromises, but no, in general, what the design Donal came up with, I loved it from the start.
So, Donal, you said that this is a 3-storey house, so what's up at this level?
There's only one room on the first floor of the house, and that's a bathroom. This room is made virtually entirely out of terrazzo. The water fills up so that it's level with the window. So you get really interesting reflections between the glass, the light, and the surface of the water.
So if this is the only room in the upper floor of the house, where are the bedrooms?
The bedrooms are 2 stories down in a basement. Underneath the house is a basement. We dug out the size of maybe 2 tennis courts, and then we started building from the ground up. There's 2 bedrooms, there's 2 bathrooms, and another bedroom and a utility room. So this part of the house does an enormous amount of work.
And this is obviously where the children play, am I right?
This
It is,
yeah, it's the playroom.
Thank you. Shall I? Thank you very much.
So the courtyard, it allows light into the basement. During the day, light can pass down over that and into that courtyard.
So the really interesting thing here is why turn the building upside down?
By putting the bedrooms in the basement, it made the plan really efficient. So you end up with a 3-story building on a 2-story site.
The other question then about the basement, though, is that generally people are loath to do them because of dampness and because of water ingress. And how do you get around that? Because that's a big sticky issue here.
Well, you use modern materials, and use forms of construction that are tried and tested.
What are you most proud of in the building?
It has to be light. The quality of light is sublime, really. And it's something that you don't really understand until you make it. The advantage I have is I get to live in it, so I get to experience what the light is actually like. Like as architects, most often you make something for somebody else and they get to enjoy it, whereas here we get to enjoy it and get to understand, the complexity of it and how beautiful it is.
And that means that the building comes alive almost.
It does, yeah. The building has a life of its own.
Couldn't agree more.
Nationwide and close to home for everything you need. About the House, sponsored by Home Value.
Patrick and Niamh Daly have a passionate vision to build a zero-energy house. Patrick has even spent 3 extra years studying a master's degree in ecological building to learn how to build this way.
I'm really passionate about environmental buildings, and I want to demonstrate through the house that we don't need to be building high energy, highly toxic, highly carbon emitting homes.
To apply the principles of ecological building, it's crucial that Patrick oversees every step of the process. The fabricators are members of the Irish Timber Frame Manufacturers Association and NSAI approved.
Well, I'm here today to check the timber quality, really, in terms of its moisture content and its stress grade, that it's native Irish timber and that it hasn't been chemically treated. And I'm also just checking some of the panels and just seeing how progress is going. To do a sample moisture check, use a simple probe, this probe here, and it will assess the moisture content in the timber.
The moisture content of wood used in timber frame construction is kiln dried down to 16%. This minimises moisture movement and ensures stability.
Most of the houses we do we use treated timber, but Patrick has specified not to use treated timber in the construction of his house.
It's important to minimise the use of toxic chemicals where possible, but only where timber has no risk of contact with moisture.
Well, the house is being built of what will be called a breathable wall or a vapour diffuse wall, and I'm concerned about chemicals leaching from the treatment back into the house. So I really want a chemical-free house and a low toxicity house, and that's why we specified untreated native Irish timber. Most modern houses have hundreds of chemicals in them, and there's been no real test done on what they call the cocktail of all those chemicals mixing together. And there are certainly suspicions in terms of sick building syndrome that we're living in houses that have too many chemicals.
To minimise transport emissions, the timber is not only Irish grown, but also the factory is in Kinnegad, close to the site.
Today really means it's the beginning of seeing for the first time what the house is going to look like.
I woke up kind of excited, almost a bit nervous, hoping it would be okay.
They want to minimise the environmental impact of their construction by optimising the use of wood, hemp and natural fibres that absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, at the same time minimising the use of concrete, steel and PVC that emit large quantities of CO2 in their manufacture. The whole structure is assembled within 3 days. At the first stage of construction, the wall panels at ground level are fixed together by the trained and NSAI certified erectors to support the building and brace against wind loads. Next stage is placing the first floor panels. These consist of Irish spruce joists fixed to smart ply OSB decking. Where the spans are excessively large, I-joists are used with OSB webs.
Well, it's lunchtime now and they're already up to first floor, so they'll be up to roof level I expect by the end of the day, so it's gone very well.
Patrick appears calm, and although he's a well-established architectural technologist, it's a huge task to project manage the build and also run a business.
He's been awake 4 o'clock in the morning and it's mad, like he's waking it up and, going straight into the office and, just to work on things.
Due to the wide span of this window, a large glulam beam is positioned to support the first floor loads.
It just really seems so much more real, so today is a really milestone day for us.
It's just great to see it actually take shape, so really exciting day, really exciting to see it finally come out of the ground.
The Dalys have been planning this house for years to every little detail, from its design to the materials used.
By the end of this week, we really will see the whole landscape of this site will have changed, and it'll be our house, our home, so. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Patrick and Niamh are passionate, meticulous and committed to taking this innovative approach.
There's a panel with a window that I'm going to see if I can switch to the left-hand side of the house. I think it looks better there now that I see it. I wouldn't experiment on a client's house, but I'm willing to do it on my own, and I have researched it. And from first principles, I'm confident it's going to work. Niamh is a little bit a little bit apprehensive, especially when I told her some parts of the wall would be sent to a lab to be tested. She was a bit nervous, but I think she's actually probably more confident in it than I am.
The last couple of weeks have been almost agonising for him because he's just trying to research and trying to make decisions and being put under pressure to decide, and it's just so new. He's just trying to make a call and things, but when you see it coming together and you see the progress, you know you're going somewhere. And he's enthusiastic, he's really positive, and he's excited, so it's worth it. You know, I think if it was going wrong, it would be really hard to be putting in this amount of work. And I just know this is stage one of 1 million stages, you know, of yet to go. So there's a bit more to do.
In the last few weeks, the breathing membrane and counterbattens have been attached to the roof. The bad weather has caused some problems, and Patrick detects a weak spot, so he calls in the roofer.
I'm just ringing him about what we spotted on that roof there. It's a bit strange it's only happening on that one. The little leak.
Because of the excessive wind-driven rain, water has penetrated through the membrane of the north elevation.
Why it's only happening on that elevation is a concern. We need to find out why. Maybe it's not taped properly somewhere, maybe a rip has emerged or something like that.
The breathing membrane is not only there to stop water coming in, but also to prevent any wind infiltrating the structure, causing heat loss. Luckily, the discovery of the leak is just in time before the slates go on.
So we have to get it right, this, before we clad the walls up.
There's still a long way to go before Patrick and Niamh realise their dream.
I'm so involved in the project that I don't really see the point in having a main contractor here on my behalf. From here on in, I'm going to continue to self-manage the project.
Self-building can be a good option if you know what you're doing.
There's a financial benefit as well in terms that I am saving about 10% in the build cost by self-building. It could be something in the region of 35,000 to 40,000 euro in savings.
Patrick has all the right ingredients to make it work and is very committed to the task ahead. But managing your own business, having a family and experimenting with your own new house will be a big challenge. We'll find out in a few weeks how he gets on.
That's grand.
Next time on About the House, I meet Carl and Wendy McKenna, who are renovating an Edwardian house near Bowles Bridge. But old houses can hide their own secrets. Also, Niall and Maeve Cribben describe how with quick thinking their family survived a house fire. For more information about this programme, visit the RTE website.
Nationwide and close to home for everything you need. About the House, sponsored by Home Value.